My wife and I both work at the same marketing company. Lucy is a customer ambassador. Don't ask me what that is. I still don't know what her job is, other than enjoying time with customers. I am Mark, and I lead the IT team. Everything is fine for us. We have jobs, happiness, renovated our dilapidated house, and have two wonderful children, Emma, 13, and Daniel, 11. We live close to our families and have close relationships. Both of us are over 30 and fit together, although in terms of appearance, she is more beautiful, tall at 1.75 meters with beautiful blue eyes and Scandinavian features. She is flexible, dynamic, and never stands still. I am 1.75 meters tall with sandy hair and enjoy sports like cycling and running, so I have a slim and healthy physique, but not overly muscular. I was surprised to be invited to a long weekend on a private island owned by one of our company's partners, Jack Edwards. Our CEO explained that he and his wife, Margaret, were traveling with some directors and their partners. Lucy was also invited because she is the main contact with customers. It sounds like I'll be there to crunch numbers, but don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Jack explained that the customers are very wealthy and could become our company's largest clients. We will leave on Friday morning and return on Monday on a private flight, and everything will be provided for us. Lucy knows everything. When I mentioned it on the way home, she had been working with the client for a few months and seemed very impressed, looking forward to the free vacation. I asked her about the weekend getaway, but she seemed not to know much, so I asked her about the client. Lucy explained that his name is William Fellows and said he is in his mid-40s, looks good, appears confident, and has inherited a family fortune. She seemed a bit infatuated, describing him as a leader and discreet, among other things. Great, I thought to myself. He sounds like a bit arrogant, but I'll reserve judgment for the weekend. 2 weeks later, on a Friday morning, we found ourselves on a private plane. I have to say, I was impressed. If the island is his, he has certainly equipped it fully. I didn't know exactly what to expect, but it looked very extensive, about 5 miles long and a few miles wide, based on what we saw when we landed. It looked like a 5-star resort, with the main building situated behind a perfect arc of white sandy beach. I was so impressed that I couldn't put it into words. If this was his island, he had surely spared no expense. We were led to our rooms and then had lunch with our host on our terrace overlooking the bay. Lucy was ecstatic, and others were not strangers to happiness either. We were shown to our rooms and then had lunch with our host on our terrace, overlooking the bay. I want to hate him, but William seems to be a reasonable person. Lucy even downplays his appearance, saying he looks like George Clooney. He thanks us for coming and assures us that we should feel at home. We chat with 3 other couples from our company and meet a wonderful girl named Sharon, whom I assume is William's weekend date. Except for the service staff, the only person not introduced to us looks like a bodyguard, lingering in the background. I wonder if there's any kind of threat that even on a deserted island, he still needs protection. William welcomes Lucy like an old friend, and they seem very comfortable together. She and others seem to follow most of what he says. I guess it's natural, as he is an extremely generous host and their most valuable client. We have a fantastic afternoon with snorkeling, kayaking, and relaxing around the bay. Free drinks and food are provided continuously. Later, we enjoy dinner with all the members of the group. The atmosphere is friendly and relaxed. We chat in small groups, and Charent comes to meet us and introduces herself. She is lovely and talks about growing up in England. I'm impressed that she comes from a wealthy family, but she seems genuinely kind. I wonder if she is a model or if she doesn't need to work. To my surprise, she teases me quite a bit, even in front of Lucy. I maintain a polite attitude and avoid her, simply considering it overly friendly behavior. Full-time care, no kids, time to relax, and a romantic location. Everything perfect for a night of love. Lucy is especially affectionate, and our intimacy is intense, with her expressing her love multiple times. It's a wonderful night after a long time. Perhaps there's something in this Love Island concept after all. I hope to repeat it the next morning. But Lucy quickly showers and gets ready for breakfast. Eventually, I dragged myself out of bed and caught up with her as she was talking to Jack and William. I wonder if that's work because both Jack and Lucy seem a bit tense. Maybe William is using the weekend to push them into something work-related. As I approach, the conversation is cut off, and after a quick light meal, we and others continue enjoying another beautiful day by the pool. On Saturday, we have dinner, and I notice Lucy is more dressed up. She looks stunning in a dark red satin dress and high heels. After dinner, William asks if we could spare him a few minutes. We agree and follow him into the office, accompanied by a security guard. William sat in a high leather chair, and I sat on the sofa opposite Lucy, noting that she was sitting a bit away from me. After a long pause, William spoke. "I have a proposal for you, Mark, a personal matter." "Okay," I replied optimistically, though I was completely surprised. William continued, "I've been happy working with Lucy and getting to know her better over the past few months. It's been a great pleasure. We understand each other well and have built a great relationship." He paused, perhaps waiting for my reaction, but I didn't know what he was talking about. The term relationship made me feel a bit uncomfortable. He continued gently, "So, I have a proposal. I want to spend the rest of this weekend with Lucy. Of course, I'll be happy to compensate for the time she has to spend with you. To do this, I plan to transfer $100,000 to your joint account." I laughed, thinking it was just a joke, and I couldn't resist saying, "Well, William, you seem a bit stingy. Isn't Robert Redford offering more than £1 million for Demi Moore?" No one laughed. William continued, "As in any other business deal, I'm willing to negotiate the price to get what I want. Besides, Charlotte will face difficulties, and I would be pleased if you agree to entertain her." I turned to Lucy, hoping she would smile, but she just looked concerned. "This is not a joke, Mark. William has invited me to join him, and I think we should seriously consider this proposal." I wanted to hit him, but looking back, the bodyguard had approached. I was surprised at how he managed it. I didn't even see him move. William continued, "I assure you that your wife fully supports this idea. What harm could it do? We'll have a great time, and you'll earn a considerable amount." I turned to Lucy. Maybe the price difference could be explained by Demi Moore not wanting to accept that amount. Lucy flinched at my words, but she was smart enough not to say anything. I tried to think, but had to focus on my breath, which was becoming increasingly heavy. I looked at the bodyguard. His attitude completely changed. He looked alert and focused on my movements, and for a good reason, as I really wanted to punch William in his handsome face. "What's your name?" "Veteran, judging by your appearance." "Shane, sir, and I cannot comment on this matter. If I were to attack your boss's sorry ass, I think he might kill me with his bare hands." Shane laughed. "Perhaps just to prevent you from doing that, sir," when he spoke to William. I said that fortunately, you brought him along. Otherwise, I would have slapped the smirk off your face. William seemed unfazed. "Don't be hasty, Mark. Much depends on this." Lucy continued, "Mark, think about it. It's just a few days, and the money will change our lives forever." I felt hurt. She clearly plotted and desired this. "Tell me, my beloved, did the offer of money come to you afterward?" Too polite to do this, no response received, I continued. I think Charlotte was also suggested to make the deal more comfortable. "Who is she? A prostitute?" William responded, "Charlotte is my personal companion. Besides being wealthy, she is a high-class escort, only taking contracts she cares about. Rest assured, you'll experience something extraordinary with her. I'm sure both you and Charlotte will have a good time." Lucy won again, but with no gentle words. "So, William, can you put your money where your mouth is?" And just then, Lucy spoke, revealing her true colors. "This is my body, and I want to do this. It's just sex, and we both care about exploring it with others. William and I like each other, but that's it. It doesn't change the love between us. I'm sure both you and Charlotte will have a good time." I was shocked by her words, which slowly became clear to me. The difference, my beloved wife, is that I don't want anyone else but you. And this is much more significant than you imagine. It's betrayal and conspiracy behind my back. I will never be able to trust you again. And if you're willing to do this once, then why not do it again?" Lucy quickly replied, "You're overreacting. I have told you about this, so it's not a conspiracy or a secret, and I'm entirely sincere. This will happen, and then I will come back, entirely yours. If you love me, just allow me this. Think about what we can do with the holidays, with the kids, everything. Don't dare to use our children as an excuse. We don't need the money, and don't think I'll come back. Your sincerity will only work if we agree on something together, and the only person you agree with is this arrogant guy. Money is just an excuse. You want and plan to do this. I think money and Charlotte are just because you didn't think I would agree. Indeed, you're right. Even with money, I still won't agree." Lucy continued, "You're right. I want to do this. I want to experience something different, new, and I'm attracted to William, but it shouldn't harm us. I don't want to change, and you think this is better. You made your choice, even dressed it up. Don't resist. Darling, you won't like the consequences." "What do you mean?" "There's never a good outcome if you confront or choose divorce. You'll lose everything. The house, the children, even your job will be in jeopardy, and there's no need to do that. Accept it. Everything will be much easier. See you tomorrow, and remember, I love you, and it's only you. I need to leave. Breathing has become a real issue, and if I stay, I'll lose control." I stood up feeling unstable and walked unsteadily towards the door. I heard Lucy calling my name, but I kept walking. As I crossed the hallway, Charlotte approached me and hugged me, saying that everything would be okay. I looked back at her. "Who are you?" "A consolation prize." She stepped away with her head held high. I continued walking and finally left the house, heading into the yard, but I didn't feel well. I heard footsteps behind me, and disappointment struck when I saw it was Shane, not Lucy. "Listen, Shane, you just need to stay away from me. I want to do it, but I need to make sure you won't do anything foolish, like having any intentions. Mark, you look not very well. Just sit against the wall, bring your knees up, and focus on breathing deeply and slowly." I felt weak and had no strength to argue, as if a long time had passed, but it might have been only a few minutes before I regained composure. I noticed Shane sitting beside me. "Thank you. I probably didn't know what that was. Maybe an anxiety or panic attack. You look quite pale, but now you look better." I told Shane, talking about foolish ideas, "Is there any way to leave this island?" Shane responded seriously, "Today you can't leave the island. There's no boat, plane, and the pilot is on another trip. Maybe you could call for emergency evacuation, but a cheating wife isn't an emergency." I was relieved that you thought she was lying. She seemed unaware of it, and I was beginning to doubt myself. "What should I do now for you? I can't even confront him physically." "Yes, I apologize for that. I want to step out, but I'll never find a job again." After a short silence, Shane continued, "Listen, think about what you're going to do and make a plan. Anything you need to do can wait until Monday. Like in the military, make a plan, sit tight, and don't tell them what you're going to do. The problem is I don't know what to do. They seem to have everything planned, and I'll have to sit there and endure until tomorrow and Monday while you babysit for me." After a long pause, Shane suggested, "There's a ship coming early Monday with supplies. You can get on that if you want to avoid the plane with everyone else going home. They can't stop you. No one, including me, wants to be accused of kidnapping or confinement. I can go with you. This contract is losing its appeal. I don't like being on the wrong side. even if it pays well. Okay, this will help. I just need to get through tomorrow. By the way, why don't we walk around the island on Monday morning to forget all these troubles? Also, you should think about Charlotte. She's a great girl, and it seems like you have nothing to lose. You can sleep a bit in one of the dark corners tonight, if you don't want to go back. No, I think our room is vacant. I'll go back there. You never know. Maybe she'll change her mind. Of course, she didn't change her decision, but surprisingly, I slept soundly. The next morning, I changed into gym clothes and hurried down the stairs, hoping to avoid everyone and go on a date with Shane. Unfortunately, as soon as I entered the dining room, silence engulfed the space. I quickly grabbed something to eat and some fruits. The murmur of conversation began to become audible. I heard comments like, "Everything is fine. No major issues. She'll come back." Then, CFO John Cousins appeared with his wife. "Listen, Mark, we've all been through this. Let it happen. It's not personal. He's dating someone else's wife, but then he's generous and magnanimous when saying this." I noticed his wife's cool attitude. At that moment, Lucy and William appeared. She seemed entirely satisfied with herself, or at least she did until she noticed me. The smile on her face began to fade as she let go of him and approached me, presumably for a hug or a kiss. I pushed her away and looked around. Oh God, I thought, what a fool I am. Everyone knew what would happen before the weekend started, and I was a complete fool. I walked away, and Lucy said, "Stay, Mark. We can talk to the group and have another good day together." I looked around, and everyone was staring at me, some with anticipation, others clearly amused by the scene. "No, he paid to have you and can keep you. But before I go, I need to say something to the group. I believe this weekend has been planned for a while, and you all knew about it. So it's only fair that everyone hears what I have to say." All group members looked at each other in shock, exchanging worried glances. "Jack and Margaret, I would never have come to this weekend if you weren't here. I never thought you'd participate in such a cruel act. You knew and approved of what he did, like some fan club of cheaters. I hope you enjoyed keeping me blindfolded." I noticed they all started moving awkwardly. Clearly, this wasn't part of their plan. Indeed, I thought we were friends, and it made me comfortable for them to arrange everything. So this was a surprise. "And you were wrong, Bill. This is very personal. So thank you for your role in destroying my marriage. The way they're willing to use force on my kids is truly despicable. I won't allow anyone to threaten my children." Lucy interjected, "You're overreacting. It's just sex, a one-time adventure, and it doesn't affect us. I told you I love you." I interrupted, "Oh, we've heard the first part of the defense. What is it? Nothing special? I know you planned how I would react, but look at what you've thought of. You're trying to convince me to get used to what happened, trying to make everything seem normal before we go home. Combined with the fact that you and your friends take this seriously, they started this topic instead of you. There's no doubt that you think I shouldn't react too strongly, impolitely, or act like a child. I need to grow up. In the end, it's just my self-respect and pride. Sure, you know this won't work, but it's all part of the process of softening my heart. So after the weekend in Phase B, you let me take control. We'll have a sexual relationship, a lot of it, and maybe try some new things. We'll benefit from your relationship with him and become better than ever. I guarantee you've discussed with each other how to seduce me. After all, dear, you better not let my lingering mood last too long." Lucy looked at William with concern. This comment seemed to affect Mark. "Furthermore, we'll get the amount he proposed for you, and we can use the money you earned from prostitution to take the kids to Disneyland and meet Mickey." When these words were spoken, quite a few people were shaken. "If we're still arguing, Phase B will be activated. He planted this seed since last night. If he truly loves you, he should allow you to do this. For the past 15 years, you've been an amazing wife, and this is just one night for you. Yes, this might weaken his resolve, But what do I gain after 15 years of devotion to you? If I'm treated like trash, you know I'll never agree, and you attack me completely disrespectfully. So this plan will not succeed. Now, you're a bit worried. Maybe you should let me cool down. 1 or 2 weeks later, you'll find me drowning my sorrows in some bar. And then, you'll apologize. This is Phase D. He genuinely regrets all of this. You don't realize how much it will hurt him, and you'd never do it if you knew in advance. You love him, ask for his forgiveness, cry, and all that. I have to admit you have a chance, but then, the way you walked hand in hand with him in front of everyone, looking so happy with yourself, confirmed to me that there's no guilt or remorse, only disdain and a desire to humiliate me. Phase D won't work for you, so maybe in the end, a contingency plan might be necessary, a threat phase. You'll take all the money, the house, and take the kids away from him. You've suggested this before. He might lose his job, and William will pay to find the best lawyers for you. He'll end his life sad, poor, and lonely. You might even threaten to move in with him and live happily ever after with our child. William raised his head so quickly that I almost wanted to laugh. Oh God, it looked like my wife's lover really didn't want to take care of our child. Lucy, finally finding her voice, said, "This really isn't a big issue." She began, "Why don't we relax and take some time to think? This is Phase A, Lucy. We've been through this," I said quite plainly. "So why don't we save time and move on to the final result?" This is what I thought about last night, and my conclusion is that everyone, including the kids, will live better if we get divorced. It's healthier than living in an unhappy home. In the end, you can't be happy if you're doing this, and I'm sure I'm not happy. You can try to prevent me from seeing the kids, but you know, I'm a good father, and that's good for them. They're old enough to understand. I doubt your family and friends will support you, not after they find out what you've done. I don't care about money. It has always been only you. Everyone sat in silence, eyes wide like goldfish. Does anyone have anything else to say? Did I miss something? I don't think so. Oh, and one more thing, Jack. You can shove your job somewhere, but you'll meet me in court with a mandatory dismissal case. Your job depends on whether the client is your wife or not. That seems to be the reason. With those words, I walked out, and you could hear a pin drop. Shane followed me, as usual, as we exited the building. "Shaney chocolate, well done. I see you've applied your advice and kept your plan for yourself." I couldn't help but laugh when I saw this. Shane even chuckled as we left the building. "It's good that you're still a civilian. You'll never make it in the military. Anyway, go ahead." Shane grabbed his bag and started walking along the coastline comfortably. After a mile, I struggled to keep up with him and began to think that it might be a mistake. I heard him shout something ahead about how physical torture was a great way to forget mental pain. My burning muscles and lungs seemed to agree. The scenery in front of me was truly breathtaking, and Shane's presence was comforting. He shifted from asking about me to sharing humorous stories from his time in the British military. We spent a few hours wandering around the northern part of the island, climbing hills along the coastline, and then we headed towards a high point in the center. I was almost breathless when Shane suggested we run home, as it was a downhill slope. I could hardly keep up with him, but I suspected he was slowing down either to support me or the opposite, depending on your perspective. We returned around noon. I was panting and exhausted, telling Shane that until today, I thought I could consider myself in decent shape. He was slightly out of breath, but kind enough to say I was quite fit, and this wouldn't make me feel too bad since he was a physical education teacher in the military. I stumbled back to my room. Lucy wasn't there, and I wondered if my wife was trying to earn extra money. I showered, and famished, I went to the dining room to find food, but was disappointed to see William and Lucy there. Shane was also present, standing in the background, and I wondered how he managed that. He looked as fresh as a daisy in a suit. William began speaking with his usual confidence. "Mark, my dear friend, I feel we started from the wrong perspective, and I want to apologize. I have never had such an issue in previous relationships, and I certainly don't want to jeopardize your marriage. It's too late. You've already done that. I want to withdraw the suggestion of meeting your wife tonight and increase the compensation amount." With these words, William handed me a paper. I opened it and saw a check for $250,000. I looked at Lucy, who seemed on the verge of tears, and I couldn't restrain myself. "You must be good at it to make that much, baby." Lucy's eyes flashed with anger. "That's not the point. We made a terrible mistake and are trying to fix it. William is a perfect gentleman and genuinely cares about how you react." I just laughed at this. "What's your idea of an ideal gentleman? Did he say thank you after finishing the sex with you?" "No kidding, Mark. The important thing is that we misjudged your reaction to what's happening. It's just our misunderstanding. We miscalculated how you would react to what's going on. This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience for both of us. You should be grateful that Lucy sacrificed to propose a better life for you and your children. It's just a misunderstanding. No need to overreact." I doubted this. "I don't believe it's just a misunderstanding. I made my position clear about your plan." But both you and Lucy continued. "Both of you could have stopped at any time, but the decision was only made to stop after having enough enjoyment. Surely, both of you calculated this move as well." With these words, I tore up the check. "I only kept it to save you from becoming a prostitute, baby. The moral part is the only thing bothering me now, but I think I can't fix that part this time." At this point, Lucy's tears began to fall. I turned to the teammates and asked, "Why are you doing this? Is it about control or the thrill of keeping someone else's wife? Either way, you're a terrible person. Oh God, how old are you? 48 years old, and you're acting like a child stealing toys just because you can. Do you have nothing more meaningful to focus on?" William laughed in response. "I run an international conglomerate and contribute millions to charity. I have something to focus on. According to the research I did last night, he inherited this conglomerate, and under his management, it's shrinking. As for charity, attending gala dinners and fundraising events must be challenging. When was the last time he did something himself, got his hands dirty, and genuinely helped others? I doubt he has the capability. He's just self-indulgent and too busy playing with other people's lives. Look at the way he plans this weekend for everyone to know. Perhaps he enjoys making others feel ashamed. Sorry, Lucy, but he doesn't just want you. He's had sex with the wives of every board member. So you're just one of many. Why don't you try growing up, William? Have a real relationship with someone. Use some of your wealth for a good cause, and stop being a completely pathetic loser." For the first time, I saw him hesitate in his words, looking unsure of himself. I continued, "Shane, you'd better take that little object out of my sight before I hit you." I saw Shane hide a small smile before saying to his teammates, "I think it's time for us to leave, boss, before your safety becomes an issue." After they left, I grabbed a light snack and went down to the beach, trying to stay away from others. Only when I thought I was alone on the beach did I realize Charlotte was lying on a unique stretch. If she was beautiful before, now when she smiled, she truly glowed. I approached her. "Sorry about last night." Before I could say more, she replied, "No need for that. I'm sure you would have accepted the proposition if I had known beforehand. If I had known, I would never have come near you. Your reaction is entirely understandable, and the speech at breakfast was fantastic. I completely agree when you walked away." Lucy burst into tears, and I've never seen William look so awkward. I enjoyed every minute of that. "Sorry, I shouldn't say that. It seems like you're dealing with a lot of issues." I replied, "Thank you. I'm glad something is becoming clear. I'm fed up with people saying this is just meaningless. You know, William has no idea what to do with himself. He's never been rejected before and is not accustomed to dealing with morality. Did he offer more money for me? Yes, right before I came down. $250,000. Fool, I told him not to do that, but he's used to paying the price until he gets what he wants. He'll have to pay for this both in business and personally. Charlotte is easy to talk to and listens as I talk about marriage and children. She's clearly intelligent and highly educated. She expresses surprise at Lucy behaving this way in what seems like a happy marriage, suggesting that there might be unhappiness or an open marriage agreement between us. I think about that. No, just a surprise attack. She seems completely fascinated by this guy. He can have a strong impact on women. It's tempting, but the river isn't that deep if you catch my drift. We continue chatting, and I feel a bit better. I think you really love her. The way you reacted to the proposals and at breakfast must have hurt your heart, Charlotte says. I shrug. Sorry for getting involved in this. It's not your fault. I just need to survive one more night, and then maybe I can escape. She smiles, and this starts to make me forget at least some disappointments of the past 24 hours. Everyone is surprised when I show up for dinner. Lucy is no longer sitting next to William. Dinner proceeds fairly normally, although I ignore Lucy's small talk efforts. When Lucy asks if I want to go to bed early, I politely smile and say I have other plans. She looks embarrassed, and the embarrassment increases when Charlotte walks around the table and hugs me as I stand up. We leave the dining room together, heading down to the beach. The initial plan was just to leave together and let Lucy taste her own medicine. But Charlotte feels comfortable in my arms, very comfortable. When we kiss, at least part of the disappointment from the past 24 hours vanishes. I contemplate holding on to my morals, the right and wrong, but then I look at her. I guess Lucy wants me to be more flexible, and to me, our marriage vows have been broken by Lucy. I had an outstanding night with Charlotte. Not just her beauty, she has an elegant allure, every movement precise and perfectly timed. She's truly a master in her craft. Surprisingly to myself, I don't think about Lucy, and I don't feel guilty. Painful memories of Lucy with William easily erase any signs of remorse. I had a good trip, taking a water taxi to the airport, and then a regular flight back home. I pick up the kids and arrange their weekend as best as possible. I tell a vague story about their mother and me having an argument, but we'll fix everything, and I'm proposing dinner when Lucy walks into the house, dragging our heavy suitcase. The kids run up to prepare, shouting, "Hi, Mom." Lucy smiles. Dinner is a good idea. If you wait for me a few minutes, I'll be ready. I'd rather you didn't, Lucy. As you said, I don't know how much time I have with them, so I want us to be alone. Lucy, when I met William, I immediately felt a connection. He looked so charismatic, confident, and strong, as appealing as characters from old movies. Strangely, after Mark arrived, he wasn't like that anymore. The relationship became intimate and led to lunch and then dinner. It was enchanting. I felt dizzy with it. After dinner, he kissed me goodnight, and I almost melted, but I decided not to betray and told him about it. William talked about some of his open relationships, and I wondered if Mark could accept that. When he proposed this idea, I thought the amount would make it worthwhile. Jack supported me, and we began planning for the weekend. The weekend started splendidly. I had a great time with Mark, and almost gave up on revenge. If only I could. William said everything would be fine, and I should relax. Both he and Jack said to expect Mark to reject the idea, but let him relax. Mark's reaction was completely different from what we expected and planned. The biggest shock was that he actually looked unwell. I wanted to run after him, but William assured that everything would be okay and asked Charlotte to wait for him. When he didn't return, I thought he stayed with her, and I felt relieved. After months of waiting, I was excited to spend time with William. Right after he kissed me, I realized I would succeed. He led me to the bedroom, and before I could undress myself, I was nervous and excited with anticipation. William stood in front of me, and just like that, each piece of clothing fell to the floor. I feel nervous, even though he is old, he still looks in good shape. As I reached out, William leaned back and began kissing me. Slowly, he gauged my reactions, responding as if he knew everything I wanted and needed. I started to feel ecstatic, like I was lost in a fairyland. As I regained consciousness, he stood up and started kissing me passionately. He was a talented lover. I was shocked by the overwhelming sensations coursing through my body, and now I was completely captivated by desire. Finally, we both relaxed in each other's arms. I woke up in the middle of the night in confusion, believing I was sleeping with Mark, only to be shocked to find another man lying next to me. I felt guilty, wondering where Mark was and how he felt. I may have disturbed William because he woke up and kissed me, and my guilt was quickly forgotten as he climbed on top of me once again. In the morning, I was brushing my teeth when William approached from behind. He seemed insatiable. We returned to bed, holding hands before I pushed him down and sat on top of him. The pleasure from the desire-filled look and approval on his face made me ecstatic. This could balance with our exhilarating feelings. I kissed William and thanked him for a wonderful night. The feeling of holding his hand as we walked down the stairs and into the dining room was a joy, and I looked forward to another night. I turned to look at Mark, and everything crumbled. I had to swallow my fear when Mark exploded. Everything had to go wrong. Clearly, he hadn't slept with Charlotte. Even if not for this, I thought he would leave, but I didn't expect the anger. What controlled me the most was his cold, calculated anger. Mark was too logical in everything. He predicted most of the arguments I had built, presenting them, and being supported by William, making them sound more convincing. But Mark canceled everything in just 5 minutes, making us all weak and pitiful to the point where I felt the same way. I tried my best to maintain my composure, but realized that I was failing. After he left, I broke down, crying uncontrollably. William looked uncertain for the first time, and when I regained consciousness, I tried to find him but couldn't. Jack and William then proposed the idea of stopping everything by offering Mark more money. When we suggested additional money for Mark at the end of the day, I was surprised by how things unfolded. William's presence diminished to the point where he actually seemed small and ordinary. Previously, his power was so great that I believed everything he said, but now this power had dwindled to the limit. He assured us that we could enjoy ourselves without destroying my marriage. But this plan fizzled out, and I was no longer certain about anything. I started losing my temper irrationally, assuming I would stay on the island longer and have a good time. But I was taken aback by Jack's calm yet ruthless response. "Don't be foolish, Lucy. If you want even a small chance to save your marriage, apologize. You should speak sincerely and seriously. He's not willing to change his decision. Personally, I can't disagree with anything he says." At breakfast, I was even more surprised when Jack told William that they would never have anything similar again, and continued to say that Mark was a good man and didn't deserve the trouble we caused, and William should think about growing up. I was shocked when Mark even showed up at dinner that night. I tried to talk to him, but he simply ignored me. When he left with Charlotte, I felt hurt. I considered running after him, but I couldn't say anything, because, in fact, I had told him to do that, and most of the trip had been spent justifying Mark's presence. I felt angry and betrayed, and then I remembered that I had done this and more with Mark. But what made it worse was that it had been planned in advance and made public. I felt I deserved this. At least it could help us stay together if we both betrayed each other. The trip back without Mark made me realize that my marriage was facing many problems, as he had tried to leave the island before us. I had never talked openly with him after that incident, and awareness of the consequences of my actions began to surface, causing waves of guilt to overwhelm me. I reminded myself of the money. Who in their right mind would refuse such a large sum? Tears flowed incessantly and gradually turned into heroic, uncontrollable sobs, causing Jack and Margaret to worry about my condition. When I got home, Mark was there, but he didn't want me to have dinner with him and the kids. I managed to hold it together until they left the house. Then I burst into tears. Being excluded from dinner seemed like an unhealthy sign for my future. When I regained consciousness, I tried to think about what to say when Mark came back. The problem was everything sounded like what he had said before, and I hesitated to ask my mom or friends for advice. Mark, when we finally got home, the kids went straight to their bedroom as usual, immersed in video games and mobile phones. I stood watching Lucy in the kitchen. She looked completely unfamiliar to me. She spoke softly. "Can we talk?" "I mean it." I nodded, thinking that we should finally resolve this issue. Why prolong it? I apologized. "Mark, I promise it was a one-time thing, and I'll be yours and faithful as before. I did it for the money. It could change our lives as a family. I did it for us. She did it for herself. We're fine, and money isn't the issue. She can't wait to jump into his bed." He surely invited her to a fancy dinner and intimate relationship. Overall, everyone is happy. He's overreacting. It doesn't mean anything. He should really overlook this phase. Lucy, it's absurd, and he knows that. It's not a casual sexual encounter. It's a planned betrayal, arrogant and selfish, traits he hates, and now I hate him too. Have you done something similar with that prostitute? No, I didn't do that. I sought revenge because nothing could reach you. You couldn't look beyond your own head to see how it affected me. If there was a faithful wife, I would never think of this, and I hope it hurts, really hurts, so you have some understanding of how I feel. Just that I didn't plan it in advance, and with everyone else's understanding. I made myself look like a fool. Speaking of which, how long did your secret plan take? And is this the first time you've done this with him? She widened her eyes when she heard this, but then she seemed to realize that it was a sincere and reasonable question. The first time. We had dinner, and I knew he liked me. I thought Jack and Margaret were testing me, asking if I was interested. The four of us had dinner, and for the first time in my marriage, I felt intrigued by another man. His confidence made me fascinated. I knew it was wrong, and I resisted as much as I could to avoid infidelity. Then William proposed the idea of seeking your opinion on expanding our relationship and your thoughts on change. We discussed this briefly one evening, but it was clear that you would not agree. Then he brought up the idea of this proposal, and I thought the amount involved would make it worthwhile for you. We were anxious as the trip approached, and he suggested inviting Charlotte to ensure your consent. I didn't like that idea, but by then, I just wanted it to happen. I thought that even if you didn't fully agree with it, we would recover. Then, you effectively shattered all these ideas at breakfast, and I began to realize the consequences of what I had done. Was it worth it? Lucy sighed. No, of course not. I was swept up in his charm and listened to what he said. I never wanted to hurt you. Oh, then, up to phase D. The pain wasn't intentional. You're enjoying this. It's clear enough from how you prance around during breakfast. Now just tell me what I need to hear. I'm sorry, the honest answer is, yes, I liked it. He's skilled. It's not bigger or better. It's just different. It makes everything interesting, fresh, and I was drawn to it. He's very experienced and knows what he's doing, but it was just a one-time thing. Please don't abandon us and destroy our family just because of a one-time event. I find myself smiling. Riley, it's humorous, but that's precisely how I will describe what you did. Destroying our family because of a one-time action. It's entirely on you, not me. You're right. It's all my fault. I apologize to you. I love you with all my heart. Actually, not your entire heart. You've given a part of it to him, and even if you assert that you haven't, your love is not enough to keep me faithful. How can I trust you again? I trusted too much because I never thought you could do this. I think I don't really know you. It's hard for me to look you in the eyes, let alone pretend this didn't happen. Lucy retorts with shock. You can't say that. You love me. I know I never thought I could lose you. I agree. You only think about yourself and your rear end, not about me and the kids. But sometimes, love is not enough. I try to stay calm and avoid the high points in the argument, and the anger after a long period. I continue, listen to this, Lucy, even if we stay together and just forget about it as you suggest, we will never be the same again. You shattered the trust and care we had for each other. Remember that more than anything else in the world, we care for each other and for the children. We don't let anyone else get hurt. I never thought you could hurt me. Mark, I love you. I made a huge mistake, and I'm willing to do anything to make amends. This doesn't mean we have to divorce to get your way. You've torn apart my heart and threatened me. You can't do that to someone you truly love. Lucy looks at me, standing still, unsure of what else to say. We need to talk about the children. I think the kids would be better off in a divorced family than in a dysfunctional one. So from this perspective, divorce is the best option. I agree that you will have custody, but don't try to prevent me from seeing them. It's good for you, and they are listening to me. You're not good at setting boundaries, and they have started testing you. This will be good for you and for them, if I remain in their lives. Lucy nods. Truly, Lucy, no matter what happens, don't keep me from our children. Don't separate me from them. I'm not a bad person. I treat them well and love them every bit. You haven't seen how angry I can get. I will fight to the end, spend all our money on lawyers, and we will destroy each other in the process. She nods. I will never do that. You're a great father, and they need you. They will want you to continue taking them on trips and participating in every sport with them. I turn to her, surprised by the first comment. I feel she's not trying to deceive me or defend her actions. Be careful, Lucy. You're really skipping phase D, really, even though you know who I am. Why would you do that? I can only think deep down inside. You want us to break up. Oh God, no, Lucy says urgently. There's no reason for this. I became selfish, convincing myself that I could achieve something more. It seemed to me that somehow I could keep you. Why didn't you stop me that night and just leave? I couldn't breathe and had to leave. After that, it didn't matter much anymore. The fact that you wanted someone else at all costs meant I had lost you. This conversation killed us, long before you went to his bed. Maybe it was all over when you first started planning everything. You spent weeks talking to him and preparing. Your departure and not forcing you to stop made everything easier to end. There was no turning back, and that was the beginning of the end. The marriage was destroyed in just 4 days. We divorced, luckily without the need for counseling. I think Lucy doesn't want to explain her actions. Part of it is regrettable. I hope someone with expertise can point out where she went wrong. She kept a promise, and in the end, we spent almost as much time with the children. She even confessed to them that everything was her fault, without going into detail. They were old enough to understand and usually decided where to stay themselves. They're in the stage where parents become taxi drivers and negotiators. I am biased, but I think they are wonderful kids and have handled the emotional break very well. Sometimes, children have an incredible ability to recover. According to the divorce terms, Lucy could keep our house until the children grew up, then could sell or buy it. But I still wanted this for the children, and it allowed them to continue attending school in the same place. Fortunately, the right decision paid off. By the time the kids went to college, real estate prices had skyrocketed. Lucy had to buy back my share, and it was the best investment in my life. How could she afford to pay? We kept $250,000 and split it in the divorce. Like with Charlotte, I couldn't maintain high moral principles. You could say I'm a realist. Anyway, it seemed like just a small price to pay compared to the cost of marriage and what used to be a happy life. I gave up my job, paid a sum to avoid the troubles of a job lawsuit, and started my own web design business. Lucy still tried to get us back together, but I simply didn't care. So, was it the right decision to end the relationship? It was messy and certainly no one won, but the threats and initial consequences didn't materialize. I won't forget or forgive that night, and there's something important when looking in the mirror and liking the person I see.